on that is that when you go out for a bond election and do schoolwork in construction, is that you have to do this on some certain date. If you're building an office building, you can open it when you're finished. Here, we have to open in August on our projects. So we have, if we'd have missed the bond election in November, and let's say we'd have gone in May, we'd have missed 2 summers of construction. And you've seen our schools, there are a lot of needs out there. So we took a risk, but we felt that the community would support us, and they did. And now we got to deliver on that promise. Luckily, because of our financial help and help with our bond counsel and our attorneys and our financial advisors, we can deliver this bond program without a tax increase. And even though the economy's gone a little bit south and the Fed is considering raising interest rates, we plan for all those things. And right now, we have no reservation on being able to deliver this entire program without a tax rate increase. And so we're working on all that. What happens, the bond passed in November, everybody wants stuff now. Well, it takes planning. You have to hire program managers, you have to hire architects, you have to organize your phases so that everything works in sequence. And so that's what we'll be presenting to the board in February, and you can go to the projects that are going to be in your community and identify those individual projects. Now, luckily, the last 2 bond programs have added a lot of new schools to this part of the district, because this is where the growth has been in our school district. And so we're just going to make sure that we get to keep the kids here in this community. They don't all go to other places, and the choice programs will help us do that. I want to talk about one more thing before I open it up to questions, comments, concerns, or other issues you may want to talk about. It's been a pleasure being back, and unfortunately our school board sometimes does not give me credit. People don't like to beat them up. But I want to tell you my experience. Over the last, well, 2 Saturdays in November and 2 Saturdays in December, Saturday mornings, while you were out looking for Santa Claus, they were out there working. We showed up here at Buckner Building, and they worked 4 days of retreats. The last one went all day because the board wanted to develop 6 new student achievement goals. They wanted to make sure that we start moving forward in a productive way. And the board, they had an external facilitator, 2, one from Washington, D.C. and a board member from Kansas City, who had a lot of experience. And they made the board members fuss and discuss, and thank goodness nobody was cussing, and they were all looking at each other. They were looking inside each eyes and their souls. And we know that we haven't been focused on student achievement. And that's why some of the board members have been frustrated, and we haven't had enough progress. So I'm here to tell you that to get things done, there's 3 things that have to happen. To get the 3rd thing, which is a product, you have to have the stakeholders who are involved in the issue together. And they all showed up every Saturday morning. So the stakeholders have to be there. Then you have to have a process. And we had a process. And the board members stuck to the process, even though sometimes the facilitators were telling us things we didn't want to hear. But we had an external people, and it was not somebody's idea. You want to buy a watch? Here's my idea. No. It was dialogue where board members got to fuss and discuss about everything. Then we ended up with a product. So you had the stakeholders, you had a process, and you ended up with a product. That product came to the board this month, and so they're going to be formally adopting those 6 goals, which are student-oriented. And the goals are very robust, and they're very rigorous. Student achievement is in 3 of the major goals. They're all related to significant student achievement. How are we doing on the test? And if you're behind, what are we doing to catch them up? Second goal is we're behind. We're losing kids. We had a report last month. I was wrong. I thought that we used to have 90% market share of our kids. Well, about 7 or 8% are in private school. Another 2 or 3% are homeschool. But now, 15% are in charter schools, and we're losing market share. We got to find a way to keep our kids. So the second board goal is that we become the district of choice for families. And we offer opportunities in all parts of town that our families will want to go to. So we're going to be working on that. Graduation is important. 95% graduation rate is going to be our expectation. But then they're not letting us off the hook after that. Of those 95%, 90 have to be on track and get some kind of either be able to get in the military, get some job, industry certification, get in community college, get in a 4-year university. Those are some very ambitious expectations that our board is going to hold us accountable for over the next several years. They came up with those. We didn't pull this off somebody's website. We finally give them a chance to talk about kids, and that's what they came up with. Also, the achievement gap is unacceptable. So they're going to say no more than a 10% achievement gap between our student groups. That's going to be a very hard bar to know. If someone tells you they close the achievement gap, you better check their passport, because they're lying to you. They're about to flee the country. It is a problem all over the country, but that's still not an excuse. We got to find a way to do better to close those gaps in achievement. I think early childhood has a great promise. The problem is, by the time these pre-Kers graduate, well, I'm not going to go there because I might be 6 feet under. You know? I'm only 59 and a half, but I got a lot of miles on me. But I think, like one of the board members always keep telling us, and I'm not going to say her name, but her initials are Bernadette Nuttall. She says, what about all the kids that are in the system right now? What about our third graders who aren't reading at grade level? African American, Latino, whatever. So we have to do both and. Work on the long term, but also work on the short term. But then towards the end of all these very rigorous goals, the board realized, and by the way, 4 of them, the 6 goals came up right away. The last 2 came late. One was about the choice. But the other one, I was so proud of the board. And I didn't say a word. They did it themselves. They said we want every student involved in either extracurricular or co-curricular activity. What they're telling us is that kids need to be connected in school. Whether they're involved in, football team, or whether they're involved in a chess club, they need to be involved in something. Because if they're not involved in something in school, they're going to be involved in something outside of school. We're not going to be happy with it. So our goals have been set up. Hopefully the board will approve them this month, and hopefully next month they'll approve my evaluation, which was based on those goals. And then I will be held accountable for us delivering on those goals. And so that's what we've been working on. And so the board gets no credit for that. The media didn't show up to those meetings because they were on a Saturday morning way out at the Buckner building, and there was nothing controversial on them, so that's why the media didn't show up. But they put in a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of muscle work during those activities. So, other than that, I haven't been getting much sleep. Sleep's overrated. I get up at 3:45 every morning, so it's time to do something like this. So, with that being said, those are the main things that I wanted to talk about. So now we can open up for questions, comments, concerns, rumors, blogs, anything. Senator West.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was going to say Commissioner. In terms of the goals for the board, first of all, thank you. One of the things that parents have talked to me about this consistently is making certain that students do have some connection with the field. In terms of externships, working. When I was going to high school, this was a long time ago.
Yes, it was.
And probably some of the other people in their office.
Yeah, there you go.
In the summertime, we would always be able to get a summer job. I mean, and we would go to Fair Park and we'd end up getting a summer job. So they kept us off the street, kept us engaged and working, learning and working. Now, I know that the mayor has a summer workshop, but it's just for a select few students. The question in my mind is, how can we use the leverage as a part of the goal structure that you guys have? Use some activities on one of those goals in terms of getting market share back, as an example, and then use the leverage of the school district in order to try to start developing other job opportunities for students in the Dallas Independent School District.
Thank you, Senator. And let me also, I neglected to mention one more thing. In order for us these goals to be meaningful, the board said we want KPIs. So for some of you, this is going to be a new acronym, Key Performance Indicators. We want key performance indicators that will help us accomplish this goal. And you report those to us, and that's what they're going to hold us accountable. I can foresee a KPI on how we connect with students over the summer to prevent the summer learning loss. And the mayor's program is good, but I know you've always been a champion for it's about our community to expand those opportunities for students. So I can see something being involved, whether it's goal 2 about making this the choice district for parents or others. We're going to have to get a crazy too. You know, I no longer have kids in the system, they all graduated, but I get a mailer from Grand Prairie trying to recruit my kids to their school district. So other people are trying to take ours. It's not just the charter schools and the private schools. So we got to really change the way we think. It's no longer a monopoly. But if we can get with the businesses and we can connect and show the kids have a soft place to land in the summer, make a little bit of money, and then come back, they're going to be more committed to staying with us. So I can see that being an opportunity. Related to that, back to the KPIs, the board said, we want you to deliver on all these things, but we also want you to do it legally and ethically. And what they gave us are constraints. You shall not break policy. You shall not break the budget. You shall not break the teachers. You shall not break the kids. In other words, do this, do it right without creating problems. And so we've written those constraints down. And we have actual key performance indicators for those constraints. And I think those two are going to work us together to make sure that while we have these ambitious goals, we don't lose our religion. We do it the right way. And I think that summer learning would be summer work would be a great opportunity to keep our kids engaged and out of trouble and have them come back every year.
And just as an aside, I'm just not putting that out there. If you need my help on that, I'd be more than happy to help out.
Thank you, Senator. I know you've been a champion with that with all the school districts you represent, but especially us since I was here before. Other questions, comments, concerns? You better have some, otherwise you can go back to work. Okay, that brought up a question.
You said one of the goals was 95% graduation rate. What's the graduation rate currently?
We actually made a lot of progress on that. I mean, one of the things I'm most proud of when I was first hired in 2005, our graduation rate was 59%. Now, when I left, it was like 70%. Now it's like over 80%. But the problem is, while that's good and we need to celebrate that progress, some of those students aren't doing well after they graduate. And that's really what it is all about. Are they going to be ready for the military? That's a soft number because during time of war, they'll take anybody. In time of peace, that military interest requirement is real high. But community college, 2-year, 4-year university, what we've shown with early colleges is that there is once kids get that credit in escrow, they realize that they can probably graduate from college. And some of them haven't even thought about that. So our graduation rate is over 80. And that's a lot to be proud of. But the last 2 administrations put a lot of work into that. But we still don't have enough kids that are flourishing after college. After high school, and that's really what we're all about. Any other questions?
So, Greg White and I represent the charter world in this part of town. I'm with Legacy, and this is A+. And then my comment is, I know Houston ISD does a lot of partnering with the charter. Is Dallas ISD ready to do some of that?
Great question. The question, in case you didn't hear, is that Houston ISD has partnered with charters. Is Dallasville ISD ready to do that? One thing I've learned 21 years as superintendent, I don't get out in front of my board. That board needs to have that discussion about whether at some point, you know, like Grand Prairie partners with charter schools, Spring Branch partners with charter schools. One thing I learned, I was superintendent of Dallas for 6 years. Only one time during those 6 years, my last time, was I ever in the same room with the superintendent of New York, LA, Miami, Las Vegas, Chicago. And the reason we were all there is because the Gates Foundation flew us all to LA. I mean, there were like 15 of us. But right next to us was the best charter school in our district. That's when I first learned about Uplift. I had not known about Uplift until then. So we were there in the same room with a captive audience. And I had that epiphany right there. I said, what? Charters aren't going to go away. Republicans like them, Democrats like them, money people like them, some parents like them. So I said, I need to best figure out how we coexist. We're too early right now in our own public school choice model to tinker with that. I think maybe in a year or two, we can have that discussion about whether it's in our best interest. But that's going to be something driven by the school board, not something driven by the superintendent. I know what my line is, and I don't try not to step across that line. And but if they feel it's in our best interest to accomplish our goal to do that, I'm willing to try it, because I've learned to respect the great charters. But I know my job is to take care of our kids that we have right now. And that's what my focus is going to be until I get further direction from above. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I was just wanting to know, I know you stepped into a structure that was already in place, but do you think that the executive board is, as far as employees on the executive level, is too top heavy?
Great question. And one of the things that people ask me all the time, when this board hired me, they asked me if I was going to get rid of everybody. And I said, no, that's not my style. I can work with anybody. I think that the team that Mr. Miles put together, they have some of them are very talented. There were some pieces missing. I don't think it's too top heavy. When you think about, we have an annual operating budget of $1.4 billion. We have 20,000 employees. We feed more people than McDonald's. We transport, luckily with Dallas County, they help us with transporting, but we still have to manage that. We have more construction going on. We hire all those great contractors and architects. This is a big business enterprise. I think only American Airlines and TI can compete with us with the number of employees that we have. Guess what? Every one of those has to get paid. And some of them get paid every 2 weeks. Can you imagine, how we would operate? So I don't think I did notice this, to be honest, because it's a fair question. Got a lot more people than we had when I was here before. And so I'm evaluating those positions. And one of the things I'm not going to do is rip the Band-Aid off. We're overstaffed in a few positions at the campus level. At central office, we have a lot of new departments to implement some of these initiatives. But some of those are very good. So it's still too early to tell, but my style is less aggressive. Mine is a little bit more thoughtful. And through attrition, I will handle the things that need to get handled. But I'm not going to fly off the handle, and because I don't have to. Because our financial situation is so much better than it has ever been in Dallas ISD. And so we're not in crisis, so therefore we can be a little bit more deliberate. But over time, if we keep losing students, now it's going to become a crisis, and it's going to become a crisis very quickly. So we got to start capturing our market share of our kids. And so otherwise, then we got to make those tough decisions, because 85% of that $1.4 billion is in people. 85%. So I know where that is, but we've got a little bit of cushion right now, but I don't know how long you can maintain that. One or two more questions? Yeah.
As a product of the great James Madison High School. Yeah, that's right. Back to the students. Do you have some in the new program? I want to know about the rewards and the discipline in the new program.
Which new program?
Well, the program that you're talking about dealing with the students, because I think discipline is a problem, and I think it should be rewards.
Yes.
So are you working on that?
Yeah, I think that you have to have order in a school.
Yes.
You cannot run a school without order. And that's what I go to. But you know what? One of the best programs that the Chamber of Commerce has, the Greater Chamber in Dallas has, and hopefully some of you have participated in that, and Senator West was our star this year. We have Principal for a Day. And while I go to schools every Wednesday unannounced. I'll be coming to a school near you tomorrow, Mr. Bagley's not here. So you can tell me Doc's not coming tomorrow. But in my 7 years now as superintendent of Dallas, there's only been a couple of times when I felt like I had to intervene. One was at Samuel before Mr. Cordero took over, like in my first year, and I went back and we brought a SWAT team back out to the school that afternoon. Not literally, but figuratively, of people that we need to get that school under control. Another one was Carter High School. When I walked through that school, and the principal said, "You can't stand here, sir." I said, "Why not?" He said, "They call the intersection of hallways Beirut." I said, "Beirut? I'm standing right here." Well, then we had to have a new principal the next day. But those are two instances in 7 years when I walked through a school when I felt things were out of control. And Principal for a Day, people come in and they see our kids. We got great kids, and they behave, and they're really good kids. Now, occasionally, when you have 160,000 of them, a few of them get rambunctious, and yes, they need to be held accountable for and there will be consequences for their behavior, because you've got to have order in a school. But unfortunately, what saddens me more is that a lot of our kids are just compliant. They just show up, and they go to the next class, and they go to the next class. Then they're waiting for early college high to turn them on, like we have at a feeder schools. They're waiting for something to turn them on. And I think that's our big reward, when the kids are excited and connected. And I wish I could tell you, right, but right now it's not prime yet. But we're working on some possibilities where we can really expand some exciting things that will make many more of our high schools. I hope we can get to 6 more high schools next year to have some outstanding programs that parents would be proud to send their kids there. And the kids would be hooked up. That's why choice is so important. Some kids that go to early college, not necessarily like within a regular school, but a standalone early college, they may have to give up choir. But for them, they found something that's going to get them an associate's degree when they finish high school. Now, they're on a different path. They don't care about football. You know? Trinity Garza High School does not have a football team. They got something else for those kids. So, the problem with the education in America is that all of us people in power, we went to schools that were successful for us. And we're the ones that make all the rules. And there are a lot of people who are just as smart as us that didn't know how to navigate the system, that are out there figuring out different ways to be entrepreneurs, and we don't like it. But they're entrepreneurs, but the system of high school that we have did not work for them. And they're just as smart as we are, but we didn't give them that opportunity. So that's what our hope is by creating some choices for them. Yes, sir, one question.
When I think about the market share, it's somewhat concerning because of the amount of appropriations that are made for the public school system. And I was trying to come up in my mind with a good idea of what is the basic difference between whether it be a private school or a charter school. Is it philosophical in that you got more parent support in one or the other? Is it economic that more dollars come from one way or another? I'm trying to grasp the idea. You know, you've heard a lot of talk over the years about voucher systems of education and so on and so forth. So I'm just trying to, when I look at with the $1.4 billion DISD budget, I'm trying to think what would make it more efficient and more effective in terms of the results that we see and will draw more people back into the district?
We never want to apologize for our demographics, because we're proud of our kids. But in private school, some parents go to private school because of their religious beliefs. Others because they don't want to be around poor kids. So we can't look inside somebody's heart and see which answer they have. You know, Highland Park has 6,000 kids, 0 economically disadvantaged, 0. We have 6,000 homeless kids in Dallas. When I was hired 10 years ago in 2005, we had 80% economically disadvantaged. Today we have 87% economically disadvantaged. When I was hired 10 years ago, we had 30% English learners. Today, 10 years later, we have 42% English learners. If I ask you which school district has a higher percentage of white kids between El Paso and Dallas, which district has a higher percentage of white kids, which district has a higher percentage of English learners, and which district has a higher percent of economically disadvantaged, you would probably say El Paso, right across from Ciudad Juarez, the murder capital of the world. The truth is actually Dallas. San Antonio has 9% English learners. Dallas has 42% English learners.
Wow.
We don't apologize for our kids. But when people try to put efficiency, a number on everything, and you just can't, it's not that simple. People that want simple answers to complex problems are continuously frustrated. It's going to take a complete answer because some parents connect for different reasons. And that's what we got to find out. What is their motive? What do they want for their kids to stay with us? We got fat, dumb, and happy because our enrollment stayed at 157,000 for 7 or 8 years in a row. All of a sudden, we lost 1,000 kids this year, and we don't know if that's a new trend or this was a one-year blip. And so that's what we got to determine. Thank you very much. I've held you long enough. I'll come back.
Actually, if you stay here for a second, I have tried a new platform this year with leadership, some leadership questions.
Good to see you, Doctor.
Dr. Hinojosa, what is a quote that you live by?
The only way to control the future is to create.
And then, you know you have the valuable piece of wisdom. One last question. In terms of your career or your goals, what was holding you back before being the first one today?
Football, basketball. Football, yeah.
To get that
Wide
drive.
receiver.
My older brother used to beat me up. No, one thing I've learned is that I learned this about 20-something years ago, right as I was becoming a superintendent, is that it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. Amen. And so a lot of good things have happened to me, and some bad things have happened to me. And I'm no different than anybody else. But what I try to teach my own boys, and I try to teach people, is not what happens to you, is how you respond to it. And I think that's probably the one thing that's helped me persevere over my career.
Thanks for your candid answers.
Thank you.
Well, you know, with the Chamber's focus on education in our, we can appreciate how the two board of trustees are here, and also the superintendent. You know, it's not easy work to give, but that's what the goal is, even when there are tough questions. Even for myself, I'm a board member.
Everyone knows they are part of the board. Board of Trustees for DISD, as Dr. Hinojosa, made that clear earlier. We know that it takes a lot of commitment. We know it takes a lot of time. And it's a volunteer position, so their paycheck is this huge. It's something that fills your heart, so we appreciate your hard work. So on behalf of the Chamber now, I know that you all are having a, I guess what I was asking you earlier, it was a appreciation month for the board members, and they're having a superhero thing. So the idea today was that I was going to be dressed as Batman. Apparently, I dropped the ball on that this morning, but I kind of wanted to change it, so I decided to come today as the Hispanic Bruce Wayne. So that's why I think Bruce Wayne. So on behalf of the chamber, we thank you so much for the hard work. We have a little token of our appreciation. So you all received 2 free tickets plus parking to, let me get this right, to the Winsport Opera House. Okay, so this is for you. Thank you so much. Tickets mailed to you. If there's questions at the end, we'll get Glenda to provide you with those answers. So again, thank you so much, and thank everyone for coming. I think there is one more thing. So
yes, we
door
do have
prizes.
raffle prize here.